The point is, he's the presidency. No elite wrote that. That's why the elites want control of the big American power. That's his big sin, is that he wrote it. He did it. He's real. Let's go back to him.
Make it nice and easy. Here's the thing. When I make a statement, I like to be correct. I want the facts. This event just happened. In fact, a lot of the event didn't even happen yet as we were speaking. This event just happened. Before I make a statement, I need the facts. So I don't want to rush into a statement. So making the statement when I made it was excellent. In fact, the young woman, who I hear is a fantastic young woman, and it was on NBC, her mother wrote me and said, through, I guess, Twitter, social media, the nicest things, and I very much appreciated that. I hear she was a fine, really actually an incredible young woman, but her mother on Twitter thanked me for what I said. And honestly, if the press were not fake, and if it was honest, the press would have said what I said was very nice. But unlike you and unlike, unlike you and unlike the media, before I make a statement, I like to know the facts.
I've never seen anybody slice people up. Not Johnny Cochran, not F. Lee Bailey, not Barack Obama, who's a great public speaker, not Bill Clinton. I have not even Nigel Farage, and he's about as good as it gets. He's better than me. And ladies and gentlemen, he sliced them into mincemeat and devastated them with pure truth, with honor, with balance, with love, with reconciliation, with unity. And the mother and the father of the poor lady that died, they recognize that. They're saying, don't use our daughter for this. She died standing up for what she believed in, but they don't care. They're still going to use her. Oh, and I want to start getting to this powerful press conference. We may have to go 5 minutes the next hour to get to all of it. But I mean, it's just, I don't want to sit here and just grovel at Trump, but he deserves it. Uphill battle, enemy coming after his family. Behind the scenes, I know the preachers he prays with. He really is getting, in fact, Gary Haven was going to get into it. He never got into it. When he hosts on Thursday, I want him to spend 20 minutes on some of the top preachers in the country that are personal friends with Trump and their private prayer meetings, because they said, no, they don't care if it gets out, actually. What Trump does behind the scenes, he wants it. He believes it. He knows it. And I separately have had private conversations about God with Trump. I'm not going to get into those, but he's talked about how he was always been a Christian, but was more focused on life, his kids, his family. He just loved God. It wasn't like he was a Pharisee having to just say, oh, I'm a Christian and being all fake. He didn't like those people. But under the attack of the campaign and what he went through and Christians loving him and laying hands on him and things that happen around the country, he said he never felt any energy like it. And now he's becoming a super deep Christian. And who wouldn't under the pressure he's under? And then delivering on the economy. Let me tell you something. I've always been a Christian too, but going through the stuff I've been through, it gets you real close to God. I can feel the Holy Spirit right now. And Trump can feel it. And he's addicted. That's what God gives you when you go through persecution, folks, is you get addicted to the Holy Spirit. It's a good addiction. And Trump has got the holy fire of the Holy Spirit. That's why it's called a fire, folks. You start burning once you get it. I mean, you heard Pastor Brown on. I think he's coming back on, what, today or tomorrow. Pastor Brown was on fire. We were finishing each other's sentences when we were on. He's an incredible speaker because it's the fire of God. And we were seeing that in Trump, standing against the hyenas, standing against those that want to make us poor, standing against those that are lying, standing against those that want to enslave us so they can control us and dictate our surrender, standing and razor blade sharp, slicing everything they said to pieces perfectly. I mean, I'd give him a 99.9. He barely stumbled for 1/2 second one time as they're screaming at him and hissing and yelling. I mean, he was just so manly. It was so strong. It was so honorable. It was just, it's the opposite of looking at a Michael Moore or a Nancy Pelosi that makes me feel dishonored even looking at him. Owen Schroyer.
Well, it was one of those press conferences for me that I couldn't step away from. I couldn't turn away from. I couldn't get my ear off of. I had to hear the whole thing. I actually went back and listened to it again. It was so amazing. And what he's doing with these press conferences is he's providing an opportunity for people who actually want to get involved, people who actually want to be involved with taking this country back. He's giving them the opportunity to say, hey, look, I'm not perfect. I'm not going to be agreeing with you on everything, but we're going to make America first. We're going to come together as Americans, and anybody who wants to be informed knows this. So they're going to get on board, and this is going to happen. The problem is we have LARPers out there, and we have people who just read the push notifications, who don't know anything. They don't know what's going on. You look at the video you covered where they take down the statue in North Carolina, and then what are these people doing? They're kicking the statue. They're spitting on the statue. They're punching the statue, flicking it off. An inanimate object. Okay? They've never been slaves. They've never seen slavery in America. They don't even understand true racism. Okay, but yet here they are in a park pretending like they've actually done something. They've actually defeated the slave owner. Look at me, I've defeated the slave owner. I've defeated racism. No, you're kicking a statue. It's that right there is the mindset of these people. So I don't know how we can get the numbers on our side, but I think we're going to find that they're on our side when we go to the polls.
I totally agree. And that's what God always gives us is a choice, especially a great nation like this that was founded as Christian. We're being given a choice to turn back. We're being given a choice at prosperity. We're being given a choice to really come together. We're being given a real loving president who has courage, who loves God, and who really wants to bring folks together. And we've got a bunch of frothing evil liars that funded the Arab Spring, globalism, world government, the breakdown of the family, hissing and screaming, saying we run your lives, hyping up a bunch of well-meaning young people who think they're Captain America and are getting a chance to go fight a Nazi, when in reality, George Soros finances almost all of it, and he is literally, according to MI6, the real character behind the modern-day Spectre. Okay, I mean, you cannot make this up. So let's start going to the press conference here. This is right after he breaks down 5 minutes of incredible, real economic news, and then they say, why are people leaving the manufacturing board? Well, he answers it. It's true. Merck and Under Armour have been given 7 months to just bring something back here. And he's given them all sorts of deals, opportunities, you know, to do this. And our media calls that corrupt. No, that's called free market. That's called nationalism. And then he says, why did you wait so long on the statement? Didn't do that. Again, he talks about gaslighting, how they're brainwashing people. Talks about Walmart, says you missed a critical opportunity to bring the country together. This is Walmart with its slave factories. This is just so incredibly sick to see Chelsea Clinton sending out tweets about always be radical, always choose a side, always be aggressive. Basically, don't come together when they're involved in slave factories and stealing people's money and robbing Haitians. I mean, this is just such a sick, evil group. Always remember that. Let's start rolling the press conference.
If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Why do you think these CEOs are leaving your manufacturing council?
Because they're not taking their job seriously as it pertains to this country. We want jobs, manufacturing in this country. If you look at some of those people that you're talking about, they're outside of the country. They're having a lot of their product made outside. If you look at Merck as an example, take a look where, take a look at where their product is made. It's made outside of our country. We want products made in the country. Now, I have to tell you, some of the folks that will leave, they're leaving out of embarrassment because they make their products outside. And I've been lecturing them, including the gentleman that you're referring to, about you have to bring it back to this country.
That's
you
right.
can't
Hit pause.
do it necessarily.
Hit pause. Back it up 10 seconds. And it's not like he's just saying that. I read the business pages. I read them online probably 45 minutes a day. It's one of the least areas I do study, but I study it. He's been grilling every day, calling some days 200, 300 companies, having meetings with them a couple days a week, taking them golfing, the big ones. And he's gotten Chinese and Indian and Russian and Mexican companies to move here, SoftBank, Japan, Mitsubishi, South Korea. And he just does it saying, listen, don't you want to have an economy long-term to keep buying your stuff? You can have 50-50 or 60-40 even. You got to start. Next year, I want 10% of your production in the United States. That's what he tells them. And then he's got these guys on his board. He's going, look, I'm going to get you the tax breaks, everything. What do you have to lose? Bring the factories back. Start something here. Make something here. Make the foam that goes in the shoes. Make the fabric or something. Sew it together here. You're going to do something. And he's like, why won't you do it? Because you're a globalist. So again, he's embarrassed them. They're economically hurting America. They're economically knowing that it's part of globalism to make us poor, to make us dependent as part of a strategic plan. And Trump's calling them out. So then they leave when they're the traitors on, oh, look at the race stuff. He didn't decry it enough to get little cheap points when they're the ones that actually screwed you over as part of an organized plan of economic warfare against everyone. Here it is.
Outside, and I've been lecturing them, including the gentleman that you're referring to, about you have to bring it back to this country. You can't do it necessarily in Ireland and all of these other places. You have to bring this work back to this country. That's what I want. I want manufacturing to be back into the United States so that American workers can benefit.
Some are saying, oh, he doesn't like Ireland. He singled out Irish. The Irish don't get any of the money. They use this double Irish thing where they mix the money around twice so that the money gets stuck there and stays in banks, and nobody ever gets it but the elites. So he's talking about basically offshoring money. But the media spun that, oh, he doesn't want Irish to have jobs. Let's go back to it.
Why did you wait so long to last neo-Nazi?
I didn't wait long. I didn't wait long. I didn't wait long. I wanted to make sure, unlike most politicians, that what I said was correct, not make a quick statement. The statement I made on Saturday, the first statement, was a fine statement. But you don't make statements that direct unless you know the fact. It takes a little while to get the facts. You still don't know the facts. And it's a very, very important process to me. And it's a very important statement. So I don't want to go quickly and just make a statement for the sake of making a political statement. I want to know the facts. If you go back to my, in fact, I brought it.
Notice how it's handwritten.
As I said on, remember this, Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. And then I went on from there. Now, here's the thing. As to, excuse me.
And that's what they hate, is that's the president right there.
Here's the thing. When I make a statement, I like to be correct. I want the facts.
Again. Back it up 10 seconds, please. That's what they hate, because that's, I've talked to folks that are around Trump all the time. He may take a few ideas, things, but he handwrites stuff out. Rarely he hands it off for them to go type it. He wrote his address to Congress. This hasn't happened in like 50, 60 years, folks. I mean, even Kennedy wasn't writing his own statements. Eisenhower was one of the last people to actually write part of his statements. This guy wrote his statements, and you can see it's written in marker. He sat there, watched it, tried to figure out what was going on, came out a few hours after it, wrote a statement. He tweeted while it was happening and said, we decry all this racism. The point is, he's the presidency. No elite wrote that. That's why the elites want control of the big American power. That's his big sin, is that he wrote it. He did it. He's real. Let's go back to him.
Make it nice and easy. Here's the thing. When I make a statement, I like to be correct. I want the facts. This event just happened. In fact, a lot of the event didn't even happen yet as we were speaking. This event just happened. Before I make a statement, I need the facts. So I don't want to rush into a statement. So making the statement when I made it was excellent. In fact, the young woman, who I hear is a fantastic young woman, and it was on NBC, her mother wrote me and said, through, I guess, Twitter, social media, the nicest things, and I very much appreciated that. I hear she was a fine, really, actually, an incredible young woman, but her mother on Twitter thanked me for what I said. And honestly, if the press were not fake, and if it was honest, the press would have said what I said was very nice. But unlike you and unlike, unlike you and unlike the media, before I make a statement, I like to know the facts. They don't. They don't. They don't. Listen, how about a couple of...
Mr. Trump,
how about a
was
couple
it
of
terrorism,
infrastructure
that
questions?
event? Was that terrorism?
Say it, what?
CEO of Walmart said you missed a critical opportunity to help bring the country together. Did you?
Not at all. I think the country, look, you take a look. I've created over 1 million jobs since I'm president. The country is booming. The stock market is setting records. We have the highest employment numbers we've ever had in the history of our country. We're doing record business. We have the highest levels of enthusiasm. So the head of Walmart, who I know, who's a very nice guy, was making a political statement. I mean, ask him how I do it the same way. And you know why? Because I want to make sure, when I make a statement, that the statement is correct. And there was no way There was no way of making a correct statement that early.
You know what's crazy? If they're able to defeat Trump, we're defeating ourselves. I mean, look how God's giving us all this prosperity, all this incredible stuff right in our face. Everything coming. He wants to unlock all the gene editing, all the technology for life extension that the globalists, the Democrats, and Republicans don't want you under Obamacare to have access to all this advanced life extension. He wants you to have access to all of it. I mean, you know, it's his actions are incredibly real. And he's just surrounded by scum, surrounded by the swamp. And he's trying to turn the economy on for the people. It's amazing. It's just amazing. And then Walmart is this paragon of, getting a political shot in, decrying the fake headlines that he didn't disavow. When they lie and say that constantly. They're saying he didn't disavow on Monday now. They're saying he didn't disavow yesterday. When he said that there were people on both sides that came not looking for trouble who had rights to assemble in America. What about that? Let's go back to the clip.
Nazis were there. I didn't know David Duke was there. I wanted to see the facts. And the facts, as they started coming out, were very well stated. In fact, everybody said his statement was beautiful.
You got to understand, back when Trump grew up around the same time as my dad, the KKK was so uncool that when I talked about my grandfather standing up to the KKK, my dad went, well, Alex, it wasn't that hard. Everybody hated him. They were all toothless idiots. I mean, okay, yeah, he did. But it's like they were a joke then. The media takes these people, builds them up. Most of them are actors. It's come out most of them are actors. It's totally staged. And the media falls into our trap when they attack me saying, oh, he says they're actors when they've been caught. You know, so many groups, out doing this. In fact, put that Charlottesville picture up about the mother and then just the photo of the KKK guys there. And look closely at those photos. When I saw those photos, I said, is that a black guy? Because when I saw the KKK guys, it looked like they were partially African-American. And that was the weird thing when I've been to these rallies is that it looks like minorities in the KKK outfits. I mean, I have video of this. This is really, like, they can't even get real white idiots to go do this. Like, I want to find this guy. Because, the organizer formerly worked for Obama and worked for Black Lives Matter and worked for Occupy Wall Street and worked for the Democrats. But, now he's the leader of it. I mean, see how I'm saying they're always Democrats? It's just they are. I mean, look at this guy. Look at this guy. And I saw video of him. I saw him. I go, dude, that guy, that guy does not look like he's but they let him in the prisons. They let, because they're so lucky. I'm being sarcastic. They let people whose mothers are white now. So if your mother's white, you can join the KKK. So you've got these self-hating people who hate their brown side. I mean, I'm proud of my Native American heritage. And then is that guy Native American? A lot of the Native Americans, intermarry with blacks, or I don't know. It's just absolutely crazy. But I'm proud of the fact, that I'm not completely, Anglo-Saxon, whatever you call it. I'm proud of my Native American roots. But I don't know. Let's just continue here. We're going to go into the next segment with the Trump newscast, where he just destroys them. A real press conference facing down these liars. Here it is.
He would have made it sooner. That would have been good. I couldn't have made it sooner because I didn't know all of the facts. Frankly, people still don't know all of the facts. It was very important. Excuse me. It was very important to me to get the facts out and correctly, because if I would have made a fast statement, and the first statement was made without knowing much other than what we were seeing. The second statement was made with knowledge, with great knowledge. There's still things, there's still things that people don't know. I want to make a statement with knowledge. I wanted to know the facts. Okay.
That's right. Why the mayor ordered it now? That's something we know now.
Was this terrorism? And can you tell us how you're feeling about your chief strategist?
Well, I think the driver of the car is a disgrace to himself, his family, and this country.
He's a loser.
And that is, you can call it terrorism. You can call it murder. You can call it whatever you want. I would just call it as the fastest one to come up with a good verdict. That's what I'd call it. Because there is a question. Is it murder? Is it terrorism?
Yes.
And then you get into legal semantics. The driver of the car is a murderer. And what he did was a horrible, horrible, inexcusable
cowardly thing.
Can you tell us how you're feeling about your chief strategist, Mr. Bannon? Can you talk about that?
I would echo Maggie's question. Steve Bannon is...
I never spoke to Mr. Bannon about it.
Can you Tell us broadly what your do you still have confidence
Well,
in
we'll
Steve?
see. Hey, look. I like Mr. Bannon. He's a friend of mine.
Hit pause again. He's in New Jersey. He writes it on the back of a piece of paper, his statement, basically the same thing he said on Twitter while it was happening. He's the president. He's smart. He's informed. Bannon is doing the whole strategy of the bills and the legislation and the executive orders to turn the economy back on because Trump agrees with it in a big office they've got with whiteboards. That's what he does with Bannon. But Bannon doesn't tell Trump what to do. I'm too confident in myself to look down on you for what color you are to feel powerful about myself. I already feel so successful and good. I want to empower you. I want you to empower me. Now, if you want to run me over and slay me, I don't care what color you are. I'm coming after you. But we got a bunch of old white men, a bunch of old globalists wanting to get rid of the family, demonizing the free market economy. Everything they're doing is to sabotage to get full control. Owen Schroyer is going to be hosting the rest of the transmission while I'm out here on a workcation on the West Coast. We've got so much coming up today, but let's continue with the powerful press conference where Trump just savaged the globalists yesterday.
Tell us broadly what your do you still have confidence
Well,
in
we'll
Steve?
see. Hey, look. I like Mr. Bannon. He's a friend of mine. But Mr. Bannon came on very late. You know that. I went through 17 senators, governors, and I won all the primaries. Mr. Bannon came on very much later than that. And I like him. He's a good man. He is not a racist, I can tell you that. He's a good person. He actually gets a very unfair press in that regard. But we'll see what happens with Mr. Bannon. But he's a good person, and I think the press treats him, frankly, very unfairly.
Do you have confidence that Senator McCain has called on you to defend your National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster, against
I've
some of
already
these
done it.
attacks?
I did it the last time.
And he called on it again, linking this
Senator
to
McCain?
the alt-right. And
Senator
saying
McCain, you mean the one who
yes.
voted against Obamacare?
And he said
Who
that
is Senator? You mean Senator McCain who voted against us getting good health care?
McCain said that the alt-right is behind these attacks, and he linked that same group to
Hey,
those
pause.
who perpetrated.
Let's back it up. McCain, the guy that funded the Arab Spring and Al-Qaeda and ISIS. McCain of the Keating Five, of the Hanoi Hilton. McCain just involved in helping get Obamacare passed, who is a Democrat and is the leader of the Democratic Party. They admit he is the highest polling member of the Democratic Party who's a male. His counterpart, Pocahontas, is the highest poller. So, I mean, he's the leader of the Democratic Party. That's how the Republicans have sabotaged this country. And we're taking back the states. We're taking back the state houses. We're taking back the systems. And they know it. That's why they're panicking and lying and trying everything they can because it's not working. And they bring up Bannon like his first statement was written by Bannon and it was racist when it wasn't racist and it wasn't written by Bannon. And then they bring up John McCain, one of the biggest liars in the world. Here it is.
These attacks, and he linked that same group to those who perpetrated the attack in Charlottesville.
Well, I don't know. I can't tell you. I'm sure Senator McCain must know what he's talking about. But when you say the alt-right, define alt-right to me. You define it. Go ahead.
Well, I'm saying, as
no,
Senator,
define it for me. Come on, let's go. Define
Senator
it for me.
McCain defined them as the same group.
Okay, what about the
behind
alt-left
the-
that came...
I'm going to come back and do some more on this. This is too important. But do you understand how smart Trump is? We're going to play more of the clip in a minute. He says, define alt-right for me. Because Hillary creates the term nine and a half months ago, says it's everybody that opposes her, and then now that it's a new term they own, they can then attach whoever they want to it. Oh, look, Alex Jones and Donald Trump are alt-right. That's KKK. They say alt-right, then they say, oh, that's KKK. And then they say, oh, Stephen Bannon runs it, he's KKK. Just all made up. So he says, okay, you define alt-right for me. Knowing they can't, knowing it's a trick. Man, he's good. Let's play another minute of this.
Come on, let's go. Define
Senator
it.
McCain defined them as the same group.
Okay, what about the
behind
alt-left that came
attack?
charging at him? Excuse me. What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt?
This is Senator McCain's statement.
Let me ask you this. What about the fact they came charging with clubs in their hands, swinging clubs? Do they have any problem? I think they do. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned...
All right, hit pause. We're going to go to break. All right, the former head of psychological operations of the State Department, the Army, and other groups is going to give us his expert take on the clear psyop. I mean, it's in the WikiLeaks to create racial division in America and stop the plan that I don't even know who developed it. I remember Pachinik like 10 years ago saying they're going to devolve power back to the Midwest, back to the South. We're going to unify everybody around free market. And we're going to break the back of the controlled left and the Republican establishment. And then the EU is going to implode. And then we're going to have the second American Renaissance. Well, I already kind of had that idea, but Dr. Steve Pieczenik, obviously talking to his sources inside the government, said they were going to support that move. And that's why you see the left, the globalists, the Republican establishment freaking out with $400 billion in new jobs, $4 trillion in the stock market, over 1,000 new companies, and just saying to the president, you're a racist, you're a racist, you're a racist, when he's given 3 press conferences saying he decries racism. So more of this throughout the hour. I'm going to get out of here and let Pieczenik host and take some of your calls at 800-259-9231 on the events, on what you're witnessing, on Korea backing down. I tell you, Skousen's got some great sources, doesn't he? Boy, I'm telling you, going back forever, saying that if they launch those missiles at Guam, Trump was going to hit them. That's the word I got. Notice North Korea backed down. That's what Pieczenik said was probably going to happen as well. So we'll talk about that as well. 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. But first, a great point he made. Okay, Thomas Jefferson called for ending slavery in the first Declaration, but they struck it. He was born with slaves. He ended up basically marrying one of them. There were slaves where they were treated horrible, slaves they treated good. Well, no one's defending the institution of slavery. It's going on in Saudi Arabia and Sudan today. The point was England was the first to get rid of it, and then would attack ships for 100 years, making it go away. Part of our Revolutionary War and the 1812 war came, England was saying you can't have slavery. 2% of America was involved in slavery. It's not some guilt we all have, and other countries still have it going on. It's used to control us. And so they say, oh, get rid of Robert E. Lee. His Arlington Cemetery is where his farm was. He was on the Northern Army. He was the head of West Point. He didn't want to be in the war. But the North engaged in atrocities, so he joined it. I'm not on the North or the South. It was a tragic event engineered by British intelligence to break the country up if you study it. But why does Trump, who's a great, wonderful Yankee of the classic sense, love Andrew Jackson? He stopped the first Civil War. Trump is trying to bring America together and stop the globalist plan for civil war. We'll see if Pieczenik concurs with that, because there was a planned civil war. Trump's fighting that globalist plan. We know that. We're going to play this clip, then come out with Owen Schroyer hosting with Dr. Steve Pieczenik of stevepieczenik.com, co-author with Tom Clancy, so much more, founder of Delta Force with General Boykin and Shoemaker. Let's go ahead, though, and go to that clip and then back to our guest host.
What you call the alt-left is the same as neo-Nazis?
Those people, all of those people, excuse me, I've condemned neo-Nazis. I've condemned many different groups, but not all of those people were neo-Nazis, believe me. Not all of those people were white supremacists by any stretch. Those people were also there because they wanted to protest the taking down of a statue, Robert E. Lee. So, excuse me, and you take a look at some of the groups and you see, and you know it if you were honest reporters, which in many cases you're not, but many of those people were there to protest the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. So, this week it's Robert E. Lee. I noticed that Stonewall Jackson's coming down. I wonder, is it George Washington next week? And is it Thomas Jefferson the week after? You know, you really do have to ask yourself, where does it stop? But they were there to protest, excuse me, you take a look the night before, they were there to protest the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. Infrastructure question, go ahead.
Should statues of Robert E. Lee stay up?
I would say that's up to a local town, community, or the federal government, depending on where it is located.
Are you against the Confederacy?
What you're calling the alt-left and white supremacists on the same moral plane.
I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is.
On both sides, sir? You said there was hatred, there was violence on both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame, yes. I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
neo-Nazis
Kill the
started this.
person.
They
Heather
showed up in
hired
Charlottesville. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me, they didn't put themselves down as neo, and you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Washington and Robert E. Lee are not the same.
Well, no, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, excuse me, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him?
I do love
Okay,
Thomas
good.
Jefferson.
Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
The press treated unfairly, sir. I'm sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying. You were saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly?
No.
I just didn't understand what you were saying.
No. There were people in that rally, and I looked the night before. If you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day, it looked like they had some rough, bad people, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest and very legally protest because, you know, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit. So I only tell you this, there are two sides to a story. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country, a horrible moment. But there are two sides to the country. Does anybody have a final?
It's amazing because the media never gave Antifa proper credit for the violence in Charlottesville, the stopping of free speech in Charlottesville. They never gave Antifa proper credit when they disrupted Trump rallies, when they were staging terror attacks to disrupt J20. The media never gave the Democrats proper credit when they had Bob Kramer, Scott Fovel, and Aaron Black on the streets instigating violence. They never gave them any credit then. But now all of a sudden you'll see the media gives Antifa credit as fighting racism. And there's the battle that they have staged for us. Steve Pachinik joins us today. And you've got the chessboard behind you today. I think that is very symbolic of where we stand in the fight for America right now, how they're trying to move racism around to put us in checkmate.
Let me put it this way. I'm not surprised this occurred. This is something we talked about a year ago or so. I said there would be groups that would be pitted against us. Now, who's us and who's they? Number one, Richard Spencer grew up in Boston. His father is an ophthalmologist, went to all these private schools and colleges, never worked a day in his life. And he becomes, quote, the head of the Nazi party, or whatever you want to call it, the alternative right. This is a man who contrived the history that he belongs to Montana. I've lived in Montana. We don't particularly like him in Montana. His mother spoiled him. His father spoiled him. And then he creates, quote, a group. He's never worked a day in his life. He has no idea of what a daily worker is about. And he tried to come here, University of Florida in Gainesville. I stopped him, and a bunch of other people stopped him. So we have these intellectuals on the left, so to speak, and on the right. On the left, I have Signer, a Jewish kid, went to University of Virginia. Both of them went to the University of Virginia, both intellectuals. None of them have ever been in anything other than what they want, which is self-aggrandizement, increased narcissism, and make themselves prominent. Spencer didn't do anything in his life that's worthy of anything. He's a spoiled little brat. And Signer's a spoiled little brat who wants to go to Politics and Prose on Connecticut Avenue and teach nonfiction. So you have these two spoiled little brats coming together with the most ridiculous outfits I've ever seen, where you have fully trained and fully equipped soldiers coming down with lanterns or flares as if this was a Nazi rally. First of all, neither one understands what the Nazi rally was about. Secondly, most of them don't understand that Hitler really had about 100,000 Jews in his army. I didn't make this up. Hitler's two major field commanders on the Luftwaffe, the Blitzkrieg, were full Jews out of 5. Hitler's right-hand man, Heydrich, who was in charge of the extermination of Jews, was a Jew from Austria. So history is missing in all of this. On the left, they forgot that they gave birth to eugenics in Germany. It was the left, particularly Stanford University, University of the Rockefeller University, and Harvard, who gave the grants that eventually went to Mengele to do the eugenics and eugenics experiments. Also, it was Margaret Sanger who inspired everybody to get rid of any child that was not adaptive.
We'll be right back with more on The Alex Jones Show.
What the aging process is when the cell replicates, we lose a little bit of our telomeres. Telomeres are the little cups on the end of our chromosomes.
And when it runs out, you start dying.
Secure your DNA force today at InfoWarsLife.com.